Welcome back, and thank you for joining us here at Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Karal Lahara. We are continuing to monitor various political events, and we will bring them to you as soon as those get underway. But first, I want to circle back to some breaking news that we brought you in the last hour. As we know, that Israel launched a retaliation attack into Iran early on Saturday. It's the latest in a trade of attacks as tensions heighten between the two countries. I'd like to bring into the program now to continue this discussion even further, Hussain Abdul-Hussain from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Hussain, thanks for joining us on this breaking news situation. I'd first like to ask, what have you heard on your end? Because, of course, this is very fluid and developing at this moment.
Well, it is certainly fluid, but to my mind, I've been covering this region for almost 30 years now, and this is the first time that I see Israel declaring that it has struck any Iranian target, whether in or outside of Iran. And we saw the IDF spokesperson, Daniel Hagari. He went live. He announced that the Israeli Air Force was operating in Iranian airspace in response to the Iranian attack on October 1. Now, granted, the Israelis did not give any further details. And knowing Israel, we know that they usually don't brag about their military operations. So we will have to wait and see. The Iranians so far, first they started saying that everything is normal. Now there are some leaks in the Iranian press saying that there was actually an attack, but that the attack didn't destroy anything. So we will see how news start to trickle to us from inside of Iran.
Hussain, I want you to elaborate on a point that you made within that last answer, which is you have been covering this region for a very long time. And this is the first time that you have seen Israel striking Iran. What does that tell you and really the general public about the state of even where the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, what is he thinking at this moment? What does this say?
So let me just clarify that this is the first time that I see Israel declare an attack on Iran. So we think and we know that the Israelis have in the past attacked. In April, Iran attacked Israel and Israel retaliated, except that when Israel retaliated at the time, it never declared its retaliation. It took us almost a week to figure out what had happened. And it seemed that Israel at the time took out some parts of the Iranian air defense system. So this is the first time that Israel actually declares engaging Iran directly in a military one-on-one. And to me, this tells me that Israel's confidence is growing. Now that it's been a year, Israel has been taking on Iranian proxies, its arms, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon. And Israel has been successful in weakening these arms. So I'm thinking that now that the arms are much weaker, Israel is acting with more confidence, and it decided to retaliate to Iran just straight, face to face, without going through the proxies anymore. And of course, in retaliation to the Iranian attack on October 1.
All right, I want to bring up a tweet here next as we continue to discuss this. This is from Laura Seligman saying Israel gave the U.S. advance notice before its strikes in Iran Friday night, according to a U.S. official and a source familiar with the discussion, saying here, quote, "We were aware in advance." That's according to the U.S. official. So we know that the U.S. was aware, but how much more are they involved when it comes to these strikes?
We also know that Israel had told the U.S. that they're not going to strike nuclear or energy targets inside of Iran. So this is not the only piece of information that the Israelis have told us. I think the reason why the Israelis tell us about the timing or shortly before they launched the attack is that they fear that Iran might respond not only against Israel, but also against U.S. troops, our troops over there. And this requires the U.S. troops to be ready and on alert. So that's part of the protocol between allies, usually whenever the Israelis take out something. And I think we do the same whenever there's something big coming. We tend to alert friends and allies, Israel and around the region. I'm not sure whether the Israelis really shared the spots that they struck inside of Iran. I'd be surprised if they've done so. But maybe in the course of over the past few weeks during the discussions between Israeli and US officials, there were hints, there were implications, there were guidelines saying, we will hit so and so, or in this or that area or vicinity or something.
I believe it was last week, Hussain, that we heard the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, speak to the press, and he said something, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the U.S. has asked Israel not to strike in certain places here, including, Iran, for fear of that escalation. Now, what kind of message does this send that Israel did not sort of heed that warning and that consideration and just went ahead and kind of followed through with their plan? How would the U.S. react to that, being one of its closest allies?
Well, I don't think the Secretary of Defense's statement to the Israelis was really a mandatory instruction. I think, he was suggesting, or he was urging, maybe in private there was some sort of discussion where we insisted that Israel does not strike these two areas, the energy and the nuclear sites. Now, mind you, there are not many more important sites in Iran. The Iranian economy is really not as thriving as other economies in the region, such as in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, or even in Turkey. So there are no real economic centers to strike inside of Iran. And of course, we know that Israel will not go after civilian concentrations or cities or neighborhoods. So Israel is left with little options. And I think tonight they took these options. If we understand what happened correctly so far, is that Israel has struck mainly military bases inside of Iran. How sensitive were their air defenses, were their fighter jets, we still don't know. But so far, this seems to be the case.
Hussain, I want to bring up a tweet from you, in fact, here, where you are talking about this situation. And you say this: now that we've determined that mighty Israel is pounding Islamist Iran, regime targets from Beirut to Tehran, the next question becomes, what did Israel take out? How big, how senior, how painful? Expect Iran to say nothing happened and promise to respond. Let's focus on this final part of your tweet. Promise to respond. What could that response look like?
So the Iranians have been saying that, or have been warning the Israelis that don't think of retaliating to our strike on October 1, because if you do, we will just burn all of the region or Israel or something. So they've been really clear in trying to dissuade Israel from striking the strike. Now, the reason I say that the Iranians will pretend that nothing happened, and we've already started to see this. The first few hours, the Iranian media has been broadcasting footage of the Iran airport, the Khomeini airport in Tehran, saying that, look at it, it's normal, nothing happened, or oil refineries or other spots, and just trying to prove that nothing happened. And then we got updated reports saying, well, you know what, there was a strike, but the strike was really minor and it didn't hurt us. So what I expect that we see in the coming few days or maybe hours is that the Iranians would start giving us a clearer idea about what was actually hit. And when that happens, I think at that point, the Iranians will start promising to retaliate. Now, and this is the reason why I said we will have to see the amount of destruction, whether Israel really maybe took out senior regime officials like it's been doing with Hezbollah and Hamas. Did Israel take out some component of the nuclear program, not necessarily the facility itself, but some sort of component that's off-site, off-campus? So all these questions, once we answer them, I think we can get an idea what the Iranian response might be, if there'll be a response.
While we still wait to see exactly what Israel struck there in Iran, what would be the most devastating or damaging thing against some of these terrorist organizations? for Israel to attack?
Well, I think since we've taken the nuclear facilities off the table, I think this would have been the biggest prize for the Israelis. We've also taken out the energy facilities, and I understand, because the energy is just, it'll hurt almost everyone, including the global economy and our economy here in the US. So as long as we've taken out these two biggest targets inside of Iran, I'm thinking that Israel would have done a great job if it took out sensitive IRGC. The IRGC is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and this is the staunch regime guard supported. This is different from the Iranian regular army, the Artesh, the military. So if Israel has really succeeded in taking out some of the radar air defenses, some of the missile stock that Iran has, maybe Israel struck the missile depots that Iran was using to throw on Israel. So any of these sensitive targets would not only be a real success for Israel, I'm sorry, but will show Iran as being unable to defend its assets. And I think that'll force the Iranians to respond, or at least threaten to respond in the near future.
Just want to let our viewers know that here on your screen is a live look out of Tel Aviv in Israel. You know, Hussain, there have been no shortage of breaking news headlines that have come out of the region ever since Hamas launched that attack against Israel on October 7th. We're talking about over a year later to this point here. Where does this latest attack on Israel against Iran rank in terms of these monumental moments that we've seen?
Well, I think this tells us that Israel has successfully degraded the capabilities of Iranian proxies. So I think the Israelis use this image that we've all started to use also. They describe Iran as the octopus, and each one of these militias, the proxies of Iran, Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, as the arms of the octopus. And Israel is now in a war for its own existence versus this octopus. So the debate has always been, should Iran strike the head first, or take out the arms first and then go after the head? So now that we see that Israel is engaging Iran itself, we can conclude that Israel has successfully degraded the arms, mainly Hezbollah and Hamas, to a great extent, that Israel feels confident that if it goes after Iran, it wouldn't have to worry about the 150,000 missiles that Hezbollah from Lebanon in the north had trained on Israel. So now the Israelis are gaining confidence, and if this starts happening, I think what we're seeing now is the final part of the showdown between the two sides.
It's interesting that you point that out, to the final part in a showdown between the two sides. So do you not foresee maybe even more escalation then?
Well, one thing is that these two countries don't share a border. So as long as this is the case, I don't really see how this war can become a face-to-face hot war, like, say, the war between Iraq and Iran in the 1980s, or between Israel and Hezbollah right now. So we have to think of how this active war will be between these two sides. It'll mainly be, I think, tit for tat, because there'll be no ground forces involved on either side. And mind you, when the Iranians hit Israel on October 1, it took at least 13 minutes for these missiles to make it from Iran all the way to Israel. So any attack from either side will take enough time for all of us in the media and the think tank world and everybody else outside the region to be aware that something is unfolding like is happening right now. So I'm not sure how escalation would look like. Maybe Iran will try to bring us, America, into this fight. We're not sure how these things unfold. I wouldn't say that the Iranians would want to escalate further. They'll try to just save face, and they've been telegraphing this for some time, saying that we only want our proxies to fight Israel. We're not interested in fighting Israel ourselves.
And Hussein is still such a developing story, so there's just so many questions. But finally, I do want to ask you, what do you really have your eye on as we go forward, as we monitor this for the next couple of days?
Well, it'll be really interesting to see the value, to assess the value of the targets that Israel might have taken out tonight. And if this turns out to be a few arms depots or, say, a military airbase runway, then I would say that Israel's just responded to save face. But if these targets turn out to be really serious, sensitive IRGC assets, then I think that success might probably propel the two sides to take this escalation further. Now, how fast, how further, we still can't know, but it all depends on the value of what Israel struck tonight.
Hussain Abdul-Hussain with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. We appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox as we continue to follow the breaking news story, Israel launching a retaliatory strike against Iran. Take care.
Thank you.